What a great day it is to be alive. We are studying Exodus, Journey to the Promised Land. Today is Sabbath afternoon, and it is July 5th. The memory text says, "And the Lord said, I have surely seen the oppression of my people who are in Egypt, and have heard their cry because of their taskmasters. For I know their sorrows. So I have come down to deliver them out of the hand of the Egyptians, and to bring them up from the land to a good and large land, to a land flowing with milk and honey." Exodus 3:7-8. God's call to us will often change the direction of our lives. However, if we follow that call, then we discover that God's path is always the best route for us. However, sometimes at first, it isn't easy to accept God's call. Such is the case for Moses and his call by God, which specifically began at the encounter with the Lord at the burning bush. Although Moses may or may not have known about the laws of combustion, he knew that what he was seeing was a miracle, and it certainly caught his attention. No question, the Lord was calling him to a specific task. The issue was, would he answer the call? Regardless of the radical new change in his life that this call would bring, at first, he was not very receptive to it. You may recall instances when you had specific goals, but God redirected those plans. It is true that we can be useful to God in many ways, but following God's call in our lives and doing what he leads us to do is surely the path to the most satisfying existence. It might not always be easy, and it wasn't easy for Moses, but how foolish to go our own way when God is calling us in another direction. We move on to Sunday, July 6, the burning bush. After Moses fled to Midian, he had a relatively easy life. He married, had two sons, Gershom and Eleazar. And he was also a part of the extended family of Jethro, his father-in-law and priest in Midian. He spent 40 years being a shepherd, like David, enjoying God's presence, especially as revealed in nature. Yet this time was not simply for Moses to smell the flowers, or perhaps in this case, the desert cactus. These years of walking with the Lord changed him and prepared him for a leadership role. God also used Moses in this quiet wilderness to write, under divine inspiration, two of the oldest biblical books, Job and Genesis. Moses also received from God crucial insights about the great controversy, the creation, the fall, the flood, the patriarchs, and more importantly, the plan of salvation. Thus, Moses was instrumental in passing on to all humanity the true knowledge of the living God, our creator and sustainer, and knowledge about what God is doing in view of the sin that has wreaked havoc upon this planet. Biblical and salvation history make little sense apart from the crucial foundation that, under inspiration, Moses gave us, especially in the book of Genesis. What significance can be found in the fact that the Lord introduced himself to Moses as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob? You see, Moses saw that the burning bush was not being consumed by fire, and thus he knew he was seeing a miracle, and that something dramatic and important must be taking place right before him. As he moved closer, the Lord told him, take his shoes off, as a sign of deep respect because God's presence made the place holy. The Lord presented himself to Moses as the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. That's in Exodus 3 and verse 6. The Lord had promised these patriarchs that their descendants would inherit Canaan, a promise Moses surely knew about. Thus, even before saying it, God was already opening the way for Moses to know what was coming and what crucial role he was to play. Moses needed 80 years before God deemed him ready for his task. What might this truth teach us about patience? Please send this to someone you know. This is Pastor Patrick Graham from the Glenridge Seventh-day Adventist Church. I want to thank you for listening and subscribe to get this every day. And today, God bless you real good.